Oxford Street isn't merely London's retail heartbeat, it's a grand theatre where the Portman family's legacy shines. Every step you take, every deal sealed, reflects their centuries-old influence, shaping the cityscape like silent founders of commerce. Think of Oxford Street not just as a shopper's haven, but as the Portman's strategic chessboard, where old money doesn't whisper. It commands, moulding the pathways and pavements we wander. The Portman's tale is one of power and privilege, quietly steering London's pulse from the shadows. It all starts in 1532, when Sir William Portman, a chap with a penchant for law and a nose for opportunity, finds himself in the market for a bit of land. Not just any land, mind you, but a sprawling 270-acre plot just a stone's throw from London's swarming centre. Why, might you ask? Well, to graze goats, of course. Because nothing says aristocracy in the making quite like goat farming. Then, fast forward to the 1750s, William Baker transformed London, turning fields into the chic Orchard and Portman Streets and Oxford Street's north side. Like a city wizard, Baker makes fashionable addresses pop up left and right. By 1764, Henry William Portman introduced Portman Square's Georgian elegance, earning acclaim from even the harshest critics. The square, shaped by architectural stars Wyatt, Adam and Stewart, became a hub for elite literary salons hosted by Elizabeth Montagu and the Portmans. Over time, the Portman family shaped London's upscale residential scene with Manchester, Bryanston and Montagu Squares, blending city buzz with tranquil, luxurious living. This set the stage for the original Keeping Up with the Joneses. How did Baker Street Bazaar, a Victorian marketplace, turn into the home of Marks and Spencer's HQ, you ask? When has a bit of fire and ambition ever stopped the Portmans? Well, it has been transformed into a veritable city expressway, thanks to its one-way system. As eloquently put by a local inhabitant, it's like little pockets with nothing together. The grand scheme: banish vehicular congestion and usher in an era of cleaner air, all by splitting the traffic flow and broadening the sidewalks. Nevertheless, this Victorian jewel met its fiery demise during the German Blitz. But like a phoenix from the ashes, it rose again as the headquarters of Marks and Spencer in the 1950s, thanks to the Portmans' knack for turning disaster into opportunity. Fast forward to the mid-19th century, under the stewardship of Edward William Barkley Portman, the family's lands and fortunes expanded, proving that even in the game of monopoly, the Portmans played a long game. Edward once expressed his aspiration that the name of Portman continues to be associated with the principles of justice, freedom, and liberality. Yet, as we know, all empires, especially agricultural ones, have their day in the sun before dusk falls. In the early 1900s, even the Grand Portman couldn't dodge the tax collector's grasp, resulting in a string of viscounts dropping like flies from 1919 to 1948. Each passing left the family treasure more holy than a piece of Swiss cheese, thanks to hefty death taxes. It was like a grim game of hot potato, but with a massive estate that no one could hold on to without, well, dropping dead. The Portmans began parting with their treasures as fortunes thinned, turning necessity into an unintended fire sale. The first property to go was Bryanston in 1927, snagged for just £35,000. A steal, considering its worth. Then it was as if the family held an everything-must-go sale, offloading 1,500 acres of Somerset prime land in the 1930s. Fast forward to 1944, and Hestercombe House, along with its lands and picturesque homes, waved its final goodbye from the Portman collection, handed over as if Gerald Barkley Portman was bidding farewell to a heavy burden with a sigh of relief and a wave of his handkerchief. The final blow came with Gerald's departure in 1948, necessitating the sale of 3,800 Dorset acres for eye-watering death duties of £7.5 million, a record sum. The aftermath of this fiscal bloodletting left the Portmans clinging to their Marylebone gem, their holdings slashed from 270 to just 110 acres, a diet of austerity taken to the extreme. Yet the narrative takes a fortunate turn. The Portman estate, much like a cat with 9 lives, has continued to survive and even thrive. The latter 20th century, we witnessed strategic partnerships revitalizing Oxford and Baker Streets and a rejuvenated Portman Square, cementing the family's status in London's real estate nobility. As of today, Christopher Edward Barkley Portman, the 10th Viscount, is heir to the Portman fortune that could comfortably refurbish the crown jewels. This fortune, mind you, is not hoarded in a dragon's lair, but spread out in trusts as diverse as the family tree. From the rolling acres of Herefordshire to the fields of Wagga Wagga in Australia, not to mention a slice of the Big Apple and a dash of Palm Beach glamour. And let's not forget a holiday home in Antigua, because one must have somewhere to escape the dreary British weather, mustn't they? There's a vast collection of offices, shops and restaurants alongside the usual houses and hotels. We're talking 68 streets, 650 buildings and 4 garden squares in modern terms. It's like a small kingdom, with Sir William's modern-day descendants reigning over 2,200 tenancies, offering everything from year-long dalliances to century-spanning commitments. But wait, there's more. The estate doesn't just lord over land and buildings. It also patronizes the Portman Foundation, a charitable contributor to the Marylebone community. And for a dash of contemporary flair under its domain, Chiltern Street was crowned London's coolest street by Condé Nast Traveller in 2016. And let's take a moment to tip our hats to the Portman's agricultural ventures. Portman Birtley, with its organic beef enterprise, and Portman Wilmerston, a mixed farm comprising sheep, cattle and crops. And who's overseeing this entire board? A heap of trusts, each with a list of beneficiaries as long as your arm. It's like trying to manage a family reunion where everyone's got a stake in the pie. The Portman trusts also dabble in Portland investments, holding a 45% interest because in this family, putting all one's eggs in a single basket simply wouldn't do. But who's keeping the Portman's jewels shining? Indeed, we shouldn't forget the 65 souls tirelessly ensuring this estate remains the crown jewel of London's real estate, blending offices, shops and homes into a lively community. It's also worth noting that the Portman estate shares the stage with other distinguished London estates, each with its own tales of transformation from simple fields to the height of urban sophistication. Yet our focus, the Portman estate, also possesses rural charms, with estates in Buckinghamshire and Herefordshire. In 2018, Piers Portman, 50, heir to the incredible £2 billion estate, was caught in a rather undignified squabble. Despite his Harrow polish, he rather spectacularly flubbed his lines, calling Gideon Falter, who was an anti-Semite, Jewish scum in a courthouse no less. And it doesn't end there. He even wrote a scathing critique of his wife, branding her greedy and manipulative with a nod to her Jewish background. The jury, after a good long think, declared Portman guilty of religiously aggravated harassment. Picture the scene. Falter feeling instead besieged by Portman's tirade in a lift of all places, while Portman, in a twist, claims a grand conspiracy against him by the very charity Falter heads. Dressed in his courtroom finest, Portman faced his verdict with a smirk, though temporarily lifted by bail. Yet, with the judge's stern prelude to an undisclosed sentence, one wonders if that smirk might be a prelude to a less cheerful outcome. Since taking over in 1999, the current Viscount has been all about looking after the place, ensuring it's green and helpful to the community, and being smart about making more money by getting and sorting out leases. But this ongoing issue with leasehold rights is eating into their profits, kind of like a never-giving-up mouse. What is their plan to deal with it? Clever leasing and building tactics to keep everything running smoothly and profitably, making sure the Portman name stays big in London, a city that's constantly changing. In recent times, the Portman estate has set out on a mission to kick out the messy parts of their London empire, discount shops, banks and internet cafes. And in their place they brought in fancy shops and eateries to spruce up Oxford, Baker and Edgware Road. It's less of a plan and more of a fight for the cool factor, letting only the best shops and restaurants come in and tempt the rich. Looking at Edgware Road and Baker Street, they see big chances for making things better. The Portman estate views these streets as heroes ready to fight off dullness. Oxford Street, though, isn't living up to its potential. It's like the stubborn teen of the family not wanting to fit in with the estate's posh goals. But no worries, the Portman estate knows how to handle it, making places like New Quebec Street, George Street and Seymour Place spots for top-notch shopping and business. They're all about improving, from 10 Portman Square to the Chiltern Firehouse, turning old buildings into fancy hotels and bringing modern touches to old looks. However, there's one particularly troublesome issue. Traffic, that old nemesis. Once a noble thoroughfare, Baker Street has become an urban motorway, much to the chagrin of residents and pedestrians alike. The estate's grand plan, to introduce a two-way system that might tame this beast, paving the way for cleaner air and wider pavements. A sort of urban Camelot, if you will. And now, after all is said and done, what's the bottom line for the Portman estate's worth? Simon Looms, the numbers man at the helm of the Portman estate, casually mentioned a net worth figure against the Sunday Times' eye-opening estimate of around £1.5 billion. Quite the pocket change, wouldn't you say? Enough to make you double-take in astonishment. But once again, this fortune is tied to a web of historic leaseholds managed by an army of trustees. It's a bit like having a team of butlers, each with a key to a different chest of silver. The Portmans have turned Marylebone from just another spot on the map into the place to be, a symbol of urban chic. For Londoners today, the Portman name is a byword for sophistication, a blend of history and progress right on their doorstep. They didn't just own land, they made London hip. London today carries the Portman stamp. They've turned history into a high street, proving themselves legacy builders in the capital's heart. So, here's to the Portmans, from pastures to paving the future of London. Cheers to that, and if you've enjoyed this stroll down history's lanes, tip your hat to the subscribe button, give a polite nod to like, and perhaps whisper a word to share. After all, every grand tale deserves an audience, doesn't it?